follow that. Who's next up on that? Right. We got a double act now. Greg and Arvon. So most of you will probably have heard of both of these people. Greg de Hoedt founded the UK Cannabis Social Clubs in 2011 after having to travel from here to the US to gain access to medical cannabis after he was told that his Crohn's disease would probably kill him in a couple of years. Fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, he's still here to tell the tale. I'm glad he's here to tell the tale, Greg. And the UK CSC campaigns for sensible adult regulation with the right to grow at home for personal use. Greg has worked across a range of different sectors, academia, local authorities, police and crime commissioners, and lobbied the UK government to gain equal rights for cannabis consumers. He's probably been covered by most of the national press, including the BMJ, and he appears on mainstream and alternative media as a voice for cannabis consumers and patients who are currently being denied access in the UK.
I'm Greg de Hoedt. I'm the chairman of the UK Cannabis Social Clubs. In 2010, let's wind back a bit before that. In about 2004, I got quite ill when I was at school doing my GCSEs, suffering some terrible stomach cramps. I was going to the toilet more time than I should be in my lesson. I started missing school. They were failing to diagnose me at the GP. They kept saying, we don't know what's wrong with you. Try this medication anyway. And I was taking these drugs, not really getting any effect from them, but kind of feeling the side effects from them. In 2010, like halfway through my university degree, I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and it was quite severe. They put me on some mild chemotherapy drugs, which again caused me quite severe side effects. I ended up being in bed and missing more university than a lazy student would. But coming out of university, I suffered a really big flare-up. I was in hospital. I got told that they couldn't actually operate. They couldn't do some of the procedures they wanted to do for me to prevent me having any operations. And they decided that they were going to have to take from my stomach out all the way to my anus, give me a colostomy bag, and that was going to be my fate, really. They said they'd have to feed me through a PIC tube, PIC line, and I'd probably be dead within 2 to 5 years. At the age of 21, I did not like to hear that. My fiancée at the time left me because she was like, that's not a great future for me, and I can totally understand that, like being in the position I was. I had friends, fortunately, who were running dispensaries and growing their own medical cannabis in America, in states like Colorado, California, Oregon, and Washington. And they invited me out there. They said, "Get the hell out of there, Greg. Come here. We'll give you access to oil and the strains you need. We've got friends who've got Crohn's you can speak to." And because it doesn't sound like you're getting the help you need there in the UK. The pharmacist at the hospital actually told me his brother has Crohn's. He uses cannabis, but there's no way he can prescribe it to me. It was probably the best thing I could use for myself, though. So it kind of convinced me that I should be going out to California. When I went out there, I actually landed in Colorado. I was straight away given access to cannabis oil. And within 2 weeks, I'd gone from walking stick to climbing up the Rocky Mountains. And it was life-changing. It really gave me a new perspective of like, hang on a minute, if it's this easy to get my health back after I've been told I'm going to die, there's got to be hope for other people that haven't had this opportunity yet. So I spent 6 months out there in California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, traveled the whole West Coast. I saw quite a lot of developments in 2011, the year that I was there. From Colorado being in a situation where anyone could come in and work in the medical cannabis industry, to it being from seed to sale, CCTV, security, the whole way. Everything was tracked by a tagging system by the state government, and you could see that there was some traction. This thing was moving forward. It wasn't just going to be a flash in the pan kind of industry. There was some impetus for change. So when I got back to the UK, I put the word out. I had a YouTube channel. I had over 1 million views on there, and I thought, what better to use this for than to connect with other people who've got who've in the same situation as me, got the same ambition for me as me to sort of like make something better for the UK cannabis consumers. So we got together and we came up with the idea of running the UK Cannabis Social Clubs. I don't know if the man with the slidey.
You've got the control.
Oh, just press. There we go. That's me. I'm the man with the slidey. So we've set up the United Kingdom Cannabis Social Clubs, and we've done it. We started in 2011. It's now 2019. We're 19 years behind California when they took the initiative to step forward, and well, no, not 24 years behind. Sorry, my maths is terrible. We're behind California and the states that have, incrementally led towards legalization. People have seen what's going on in the states in America. They've seen that in Spain, for example, there's 1,000 cannabis social clubs. And consumers want that kind of equality. It's really not nice being, in your 20s and your 30s, and you've loved cannabis, for the last 10 years. You're seeing it legalized all over the world, and you're seeing people the same age as you having jobs, growing cannabis, and being paid for it, not being arrested for it, and living a normal life. And you want that for yourself as well. You want that for your friends. So this is a part of the reason why there's such a big push for legalization in the UK. We've got other countries like Canada have just legalized on a federal level. On October 17th, they brought in legalization with the Justin Trudeau government. There's a split opinion on whether the way it's been rolled out is the best way that it could have been rolled out. Some people prefer the sort of like the grey area system that people had, because there were a few more rights for patients and for consumers. Now people are concerned that they're going to be left with this over-commercialised version of cannabis. So people are seeing that and they want to do something about it. They want to get involved and make sure that the cannabis industry that is coming is something that they want to see. People realise they've been lied to as well in the UK. They're seeing all this change around the world. They're seeing doctors speak about it on TV. Sanjay Gupta, the big TV doctor in America, he broke the story of a little girl named Charlotte Figge. She's got epilepsy, and this is what's helped change the law in the UK. It's like children with epilepsy, because they can't speak up for themselves. They need to have their story told to them. And when people realise that, hang on, kids are going through this, and cannabis is saving them, and it's not giving them cancer and killing them, we've been lied to. So people are standing up. Non-cannabis consumers are behind this change. And of course, there's the big money that can be made from cannabis. That's waking up a lot of people who are in the financial industry and the financial sectors. Press that one thing also. Oh, I've turned it off now. There we go. So, the cannabis campaign in Wales. Howard Marks, obviously, is a huge Welsh icon. He has taken the story of hash and smuggling and cannabis around the world. He's written books, he's had films made about him, and he's influenced a lot of people to learn about it, and they've learned about the injustices as well. And having a Welsh icon, I think it makes Welsh people feel like cannabis is something that's part of Wales as well. The Cardiff Global Cannabis March is a huge affair every year in Cardiff. Everyone gets together who is a cannabis enthusiast. They march from Cathie's Park down to the Bay. We stop off in town, we do talks, we can interact with people on the way. People are a bit surprised to see 1,000 people marching through the town, the city centre, with flags waving and making a lot of noise. But that's the point. It's about making awareness and letting people know, hey, we need to be seen here, we need to be heard. And there's a picture there of Howard Marks in 2012, I believe. He was the guest of honour at the Global Cannabis March. The Global Cannabis March is actually, it's called the Global Cannabis March because it's global. This happens in over 100 cities around the world. And that means millions of people are getting out on the same day. It's the first Saturday of May every year, and they're looking to create awareness for cannabis reform. They want it to grow every year. So on, I think it's May the 4th, May the 4th be with you. If you ever want to get down to Cathie's Park, probably around 12 o'clock, that's where we start in the march this year. Of course, Paul Flynn, he led the medical cannabis bill. He's a MP for Newport. So you've got one of your Welsh MPs is actually the one who pushed this medical cannabis bill forward in the UK. So again, Wales leading the campaign. Medically, they're the first country in the UK to prescribe Sativex outright to MS patients. The rest of the country, they're being denied. I think the Freedom of Information request was put in 2011, and only 1,420 patients in the whole of the UK were prescribed Sativex. And it's basically down to funding costs. There's not enough money to give these patients the money they need, the medicine they need, and they're being left in pain. The whole reason that Sativex, that drug, was given a license was because MS patients were being busted, and they're still being busted. We've got proof, we've got patients that contact us and say, what do I do? I've just had the police round, they've taken my 4 plants, that's my medicine. In some cases, recently, up in Newcastle, there was one patient that was raided by armed police, and this week we've actually just seen a police officer shoot a man involved in a cannabis raid. And that, this is proof that prohibition kills. This isn't a cannabis being dangerous, this is the policy that is doing it. What is a Cannabis Social Club? No, I think that's kind of what they did. That wasn't the case. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I think that I've not read that, so I'm not going to comment. What is Cannabis Social Club? We are private membership clubs for people over the age of 18. So if you're an adult, you've got ID to prove you're an adult, you can come in to a Cannabis Social Club. Most of the time, the clubs actually ask you to be to come in with a member who's already, someone who's already a member of the club, so they can vouch for the person. We are in a situation where, of course, there are undercover police around. I'm sure there's one under here today. What are you doing? And it's just a way to try and keep your community safe. The clubs are there for the members. They serve the needs of the members, because obviously the government have turned a blind eye to what these people want, and we don't want them on the streets. We give people a way to move away from the black market and sort of like take a little bit more control over their cannabis interactions. There's an annual fee to join the club. Like I say, members are vetted. The idea is that members are, given the opportunity and told how they can grow their own cannabis, so they can divert away from the black market. There's over 70 cannabis clubs and communities in the UK now, and that is the latest figure. They're the ones that are actually working with us. We've got about 160 in the UK that are they're operating under a Cannabis Social Club name or doing that kind of thing. Not all of them are, working towards our model. So the benefits of the Cannabis Social Club, they divert consumers away from the black market or antisocial or criminal behaviour. People might not be aware that a lot of the cannabis grown commercially in the UK is grown by organised crime. They lock small children up in domestic houses in the UK to grow the cannabis. They feed them pot noodles, don't let them see sunshine, take away their passports. And eventually the police might raid the premises and they'll arrest the child, lock them up, and all while the gang is getting away with £30,000 a crop. A crop is 3 months as well, so you can see you can make over £100,000 in a year from one premises. They likely have 3 to 5 running at a time. So that's easy, big money for organised crime to get from a crop that people should be able to grow themselves, and if they were allowed to grow themselves, they wouldn't need to rely on organised crime like that. But the problem is, most people don't realise that's where the cannabis is coming from. So that's what we don't want people contributing to those supply chains, that kind of criminal behaviour, because that gets involved in drugs that do cause more harm because they've got the money to go and buy them and import them. There's now a growing gun problem in the UK. Money like that is good for being able to buy those kind of products and to distribute, which again is all of criminal behaviour, and it doesn't need to have anything to do with cannabis. The average age of our members is actually 42. The oldest member is 89 years old. We've got some good characters that pop into some of the clubs, all over the country, from Teesside to London. I'm sure we've got a few over here in Wales, and down in Brighton, where I am a member. It's really nice hearing, their stories of different little cannabis, things that popped up in the past, or like clubs or coffee shops. To hear, their experience of it in the UK, so it gives you a good idea of what the shoulders we're standing on. It's a good place for disabled people to come as well, Cannabis Social Club. Like at the moment, a disabled person is given a bag of medicine from their doctor and said, go home and take these pills. That's not a really nice existence. I lived that. I know there's a few other people here have been put through that as well. Cannabis Social Clubs offer people a chance to get out of their home, to be social with people, quite the opposite of what the people have been led to believe about cannabis. And one patient told me the other day, thank you so much for making me feel normal for the day. If going around, being around other people that consume cannabis and just talking gives him the ability to feel normal, then that's worth it. Like, he doesn't want to go to a pub and drink, otherwise he'd go to a pub and drink. He doesn't. He wants to come to the club. Cannabis is 114 times safer than alcohol as well, so if we're giving people an option to move away from something that is really dangerous for them, it's a public health problem in the UK, there's an alcohol epidemic, then that, again, it's a good thing. Like, cannabis is much safer. If we give people a licensed product, or a product that's at least been tested, it's gone through a screening process and it's got what it actually contains in it, that's going to be helpful for everyone. And also, people who've been caught up in problematic drug circles, like if they're easily influenced, if someone offers them a bit of cocaine or some heroin, and they don't care, they just want to get the buzz, they're likely to go and do that if they're in an environment where those drugs are around. We don't have other drugs in the Cannabis Social Clubs. We separate cannabis from the rest of the drug market, which is it's a key point. There are 5 Cannabis Social Clubs in Wales at the moment. We've got them in Swansea, Cardiff, Newport, Wrexham. Nice to see you guys here. There's a few of them in the Swansea Club over there. We're working with the Police Crime Commissioner in North Wales, Arfon Jones, has been very supportive and very vocal. It's nice to have someone who's an elected official actually speaking up for cannabis consumers, because we all go to our MPs, we all ask for their support, and they don't give it to us. We've got very few MPs that will stand up and voice the concerns of their constituents. Norman Lamb being one of them, and Paul Flynn being another. Again, Leanne Wood as well coming out today. Thank you very much for the support. We're helping build stronger relationships with the community. So we're coming out there. We're giving people the idea that we're not the stereotypical stoners, that we are actually normal people in society. We work normal jobs. We're your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunties, your nans, your granddads, and we just want to be treated equally, really. So these are some of the reasons that are important. Cannabis Social Clubs are important for Wales, but most importantly, public health. There is a spice and a mambo epidemic, and problem in the UK, and we've seen it in the towns, particularly North Wales. There's a lot of articles that have been published from towns up there where people are in a distressed state in the street, and they don't need to be like that, and cannabis is a much safer alternative for them, and we could be giving them access to it. We could get 2,000 legal jobs in Wales instantly if we legalise Cannabis Social Clubs. It's an alternative to alcohol. You can actually have real control of the cannabis market then. You know who's growing it to be sold commercially, and you know where it's being sold commercially. The people who are using cannabis can call the police if they need to, because they're not fearful of being arrested for themselves, and that means that real crime can be investigated. It stops people getting involved with dealing to make money for a profit motive, and it lets people get involved with cannabis for the right reasons. And hopefully it'll deter people from being involved with organised crime. Just one quote I saw the other day when putting this together was that North Wales lost 140 pubs in the region since 2001. 1 in 5 have been closing. That's from the National Statistics Office. Maybe that's a sign we need to read between the lines. People might be more interested in consuming a much safer alternative of alcohol, and I think that maybe we should look at that message. Thanks very much.